Welcome back everybody. Today we're going over the pistol that you see in my hands right now and that you saw throughout the intro. This is the new, at least newish as of this video, Gen 5 Glock 19. So Glock 19 is one of the, if not the most popular pistols in America for a number of reasons. It has good capacity, good weight, good accuracy, good reliability, decent price point, which we'll get into a little bit later on in the video. But this channel would not exist if it wasn't for a problematic Gen 4 Glock 19 that I had years and years ago. And that's actually how the channel got started. If you guys haven't watched my viewer mail call videos, check it out. You guys can hear me rant about that. But that's not what you guys are tuning in for. You're tuning in to hear about this particular pistol. And the folks over at Big Daddy Unlimited sent this one out for a review. So definitely a big thank you to them. But what we're going to do first is let the dogs take a look at it. And then we're going to get into some of the differences versus a Gen 4 Glock 19, talk about some of the unique characteristics of this particular model itself, and then at the end we'll let you know how it's performed and what we think of it overall. Typically when I go over a gun, I just talk about the features of that particular gun, but with the Gen 5 Glocks, really so many people just want to know how it's different than the Gen 4. I figure we'll get into that, and then after that, discuss some other features about the gun itself. So we'll start down here on the bottom of the pistol, and there's a lot going on that's different here with the Gen 5 versus the Gen 4. First off, magazines. So you do get 3 magazines with the pistol, just like you did with the Gen 4, which is nice. And they're 15-round magazines. However, there are some changes to it. The Gen 5s are going to have this orange follower that you guys see here, which is nice. Nice high visibility follower. It's actually orange all the way throughout. So when you load your mag, you can see the orange lines in your little witness holes. So you know where you're at, in addition to being able to see the actual round itself in there. Additionally, on the magazine, the floor plate here has a little bit of a taper to it versus the other Gen 4 Glock mags that are out there, which are going to be a little bit more of a straight line out there, and that's to coincide with the cutout that we have here. So you guys can see there the cutout on the Gen 5 on your right is very different than what you see here on your Gen 4. Now, the FBI requested this on their pistol, at least that's as I understand it. However, I initially thought I really liked it, and after a bunch more use, I will say I don't like it, and here's why. So in addition to having that cutout on there, they also flared the mag well, which I do think is a good thing. So you guys can see the little flares there on the outside versus on the Gen 4, and when you're actually holding the gun, it does kind of give you a little bit of a, like, I guess, reinforcement, pushing your hand up on it, which I do like. It drives your hand up higher on the gun, which that's certainly a good thing. But with this cutout, what ends up happening, despite the magazine well being flared and beveled, which is nice, is that if you come in at like a grip angle like this, you'll hit it and it won't go in. Now, it's a double stack magazine, so naturally it's kind of pointier on the top, which aids in reloads anyway. But I literally, that time when I went to do it, I went to put the magazine in and missed it because of that. So it's supposed to aid in getting it in, at least with the mag flare, and then that cutout is supposed to aid with the new magazine in stripping and ripping it out if you get a double feed, which it does do that well, I'll give them that. But I personally would much rather see the cutouts here on the side, which a lot of other pistols do, to aid you in grabbing the magazine, so that way you don't have to worry about having you come in and, you know, get hung up, just like as you guys can see right there when you go to do your reload. So it doesn't pinch my hand. I've heard folks say that it pinches their hand when they're firing. I've never noticed that, but I have got hung up on it a couple of times during reloads. So at this point, I would say I'm not a fan of it. But the magazine's different, the cutout's different, all that stuff. Now, the texturing on there on both the pistols is pretty much the same, and really it's very good. The Gen 4 Glock over here and the Gen 5 have very good grip texture on there, in that it's pretty grippy in terms of how it sticks to your hand if your hands are sweaty, bloody, whatever the case may be. But it's not so aggressive that it's going to abrade your clothes, abrade your skin if you're carrying it inside the waistband or anything like that. So in terms of texturing, I do think they got it right. It also has the same texture on the front strap and the back strap, which is perfect because that's really where you need it when you're firing your gun. Both pistols do come with 4 back straps, so you get your small, which is, of course, the way it comes from the factory, then your medium and your large, and then you also get medium and large with a beaver tail here. So the beaver tail is going to aid people who have like really large hands and not getting slide bite. I go back and forth as to which one I personally like, but the front straps here, as you guys can see, are very different. Now that was really one of the big selling points for the Gen 5 Glocks. A lot of people were modifying their Gen 3 and Gen 4 Glocks by removing the finger grooves. I kind of go back and forth on it, but I don't think I really have a preference between the two. They feel pretty, I guess, fine to me. I don't really notice a difference. My fingers, though, do line up with the grooves, and I know if there's a lot of people out there that that's not the case. So if that's you, then you're really going to like having the fingerless frame on there. So mag release is the same. The mag release is reversible. It is not ambidextrous, which is nice in my opinion. I prefer that. Ambidextrous mag releases, sometimes they stick out and you have a hard time releasing the mag. I prefer the reversible ones like we have here, so that certainly is a good thing. The slide lock, though, and the slide release here are different, and they're different in a number of ways. So on the Gen 5s, they're going to be ambidextrous, so they're on both sides of the pistol. You can lock the slide to the rear, send the slide home from either side. So you lefties out there, you're good to go there in that regard. It's also bigger. And we're going to get into this a little bit later on in the review. I'm not sure how easy it is to see here on camera. We can kind of put them together. It's probably impossible to see, actually. But it is bigger and it sticks out more. You guys can see it right there, actually. So yeah, it sticks out more, and in my opinion, that is absolutely not a good thing. Some people like it, and the fact that it's easier to hit with their thumb. I personally have never really had a problem with the Glocks actuating with my thumb, but again, like I said, we're going to get into that a good bit later on in the video. And another difference on the frame as we're looking at it is up front here on the newer Gen 5s, it's beveled here, so that way it matches the slide beveling that we have here versus the squared off Gen 4 and the squared off frame. Now originally with the Gen 5s, they came with the beveled nose there like we have here on our Glock 26, but they came with the flat frame like on the Gen 4. So here's my Gen 5 Glock 17. You guys can see it didn't have the beveling. Glock got a lot of feedback from the customers apparently saying they wanted that beveling. So the newer Gen 5s, both the 17, 19, 34, and 26s will all have that bevel. Another big difference with the Gen 5 pistols is that the Gen 5s are 2-pin design, meaning you have this 1 pin here above the trigger and then this 1 pin back here on the back strap. Now the Gen 3 and 4s are going to be 3-pin largely. There are a couple exceptions to that, but that's a video for another day. But this is a 3-pin design. So originally the Gen 2s and the Gen 1 Glocks had the 2 pins. They switched it to have a little bit of a beefier locking block, as I understand it. And of course, with modern technology, they've gone back to the 2-pin, being able to make it strong enough to just use those 2 pins. And that pin there is steel, for those that don't know. Also, in that, the triggers are different. We'll show you that here in a second. But the trigger on the Gen 5 is, in my opinion, a much better, much more usable trigger than the Gen 4. I actually like Glock triggers just fine. I keep most of mine stock, but you can see we have this area here where it's kind of just nothing in terms of resistance. Then you hit this resistance point, and then it creeps a little bit, and then breaks. The reset's good, it's positive, it's strong, but the break kind of just comes out of nowhere. Whereas on the Gen 5, it's kind of like if anybody has used the New York trigger spring on the Gen 3 and Gen 4 Glocks. It's kind of like a hybrid between that and then, I don't know, something else. But basically, from the time you start to engage the trigger, there's resistance. So it starts to build, and then it hits a much more defined wall back here, and then it breaks much crisper. That break, though, is heavier. So here, just off camera, I measured this. My Gen 4 trigger here, which is factory with the exception of the 25-cent trigger job, polishing job, was breaking right at 5 to 5.25 pounds. This one here on the Gen 5 breaks at 6 to 6.5 pounds. But as you guys can see there, it's crisper. Still has that very positive, very tactile reset that Glocks are known for. Even though this trigger is heavier on the Gen 5, I personally prefer the Gen 5 trigger. I just think you get much more feedback as a shooter in terms of when the trigger is going to break, and it's much easier to anticipate, and the break's just cleaner. So all in all, I definitely prefer the Gen 5 trigger for sure. Another difference that you guys probably can see very easily here on the frames is that the Gen 5, or rather on the slides, is that the Gen 5 has the DLC or diamond-like coating finish versus the Gen 4, which has their nitride melanite finish. This one here, the diamond-like finish, or diamond-like coating rather, kind of looks like some of the early Gen 3s and late Gen 2s that had the tinifer finish that was really shiny and kind of slippery. It feels the same way. It's very shiny, it's very slippery. So far, seems to be holding up pretty well to wear, but it's a surface treatment just like nitriding is. However, it makes the surface actually harder. It gives you a harder surface and it's more corrosion resistant than nitride. So diamond light coating, or DLC, is kind of the new hotness in the gun world in terms of finishing and finishes rather. From what I've seen, that's for good reason. It definitely seems to be a very durable finish from everything I've seen so far. Disassembling the pistol is pretty much as straightforward as it's always been. You're going to lock the pistol, slide to the rear, inspect the chamber, make sure there isn't a round, send it home. At this point, you're going to point in a safe direction, pull the trigger, pull back approximately 1/4 to 1/8 of an inch on the slide, pull down on these two little tabs right here, and the slide will come off the pistol. Now we have our double recoil spring, just like the Gen 4s had. So it's different than Gen 3s for those that are familiar with that. The barrel itself is also going to have that DLC finish on there, but the barrel's got some differences for sure versus the Gen 4. So not only does it have a different finish, it has different rifling in there. So this one here is going to have hexagonal rifling, and it's known as the Glock marksman barrel, they call it. So they have some guaranteed accuracy results with it. And you guys can see there are some slight differences here in the locking lugs, and then the big difference, visibly anyway, as you look at it, is going to be right here on the crown. With the Gen 5, it's going to have a recessed crown on there. And what that does is a couple things. Any kind of match rifle out there that you see on the market is going to have a recessed crown, generally speaking. And it also gives you some added protection in case of impact or anything like that. If you get a chip at the end of your barrel from some hard use, you don't have to worry about it affecting accuracy and where your bullet is going to go down range. So it's just an added degree of protection, and in theory gives you an added degree of accuracy as well. And that hexagonal rifling in there is also going to allow you to shoot lead reloads if you want to. So those of you guys who are big reloaders and use lead bullets for that, you don't have to worry about using it here in your Gen 5 barrels versus in your Gen 4 with that polygonal rifling. Sometimes you could have lead buildup in there that could cause some pretty serious issues. So that definitely is a difference there with that marksman barrel. And something I kind of want to show you here as well while we have the slides apart is the Gen 4 over here on your left, and the Gen 5. We have that sort of Glock 43 inspired striker safety, which is very different than your typical one that you see here, like on your Gen 4, which is basically like every other Glock striker safety that you've seen out there on the market. It's definitely different and has a similar design there to the Glock 43. Additionally, if you actually look here in the frames, on the right here we have our Gen 5. You guys can see there's obviously a difference because we have the ambidextrous slide lock slide release there, but the trigger mechanism is also a little bit different. You can see the cruciform here looks different, and if you actually pull it apart, the trigger components look different as well. So it definitely functions differently, which gives you that different feedback like I was talking about earlier. One thing that's the same between the Gen 5 and the Gen 4, and really the Gen 3 as well, pistols, is going to be the light accessory rail on there. So it's for lights and lasers, of course, mounting them out front. It is different than a 1913 rail. And initially, when Glocks first came out with their own specific light rail, a lot of people were sort of against it because it wasn't the 1913 standard. But nowadays, pretty much anybody that makes a light laser combo makes a Glock option simply because they're such popular pistols. You guys can see here the Olight PL2 that we've been running throughout a lot of the review. It snaps right onto there. Another thing that's nice about Glocks is that holster options, or really any accessories, are just very available. This is the MIE Productions offering here with the outside the waistband light bearing holster for the PL2. So you guys can see it fits in there nice and snug, and really any accessories, including holsters, are just very easy to find for Glocks, which is a nice thing. We'll drop a link for this down below in the video description for those who are interested. Speaking of accessories, we'll talk about sights. So on the Glock 2019 with the Gen 5, and this came about with the 17 as well. They introduced some new sight options. Now, the good thing is they changed the sight picture so that it actually lines up correctly, so you can put your dot in the middle of the U and actually be on target. With the older Glock sights, if you didn't hold the dot a little bit below the U, you would shoot high. So that's good. They fixed that. The bad thing is they definitely still are polymer, at least the baseline sights that come from the factory. I've seen so many Glock sights over the years break, fail in one way or another, that I just think it's a huge mistake that Glock makes by continuing to put these factory plastic sights out. I realize what people are going to say. They're going to say, oh, well, they're just placeholders until you can get better sights, which I agree with actually at this point. But at the price point that Glock pistols come in at, there's no reason for that to be the case, especially when all of their competitors offer steel options, and many of them, their pistols are cheaper as well. So I do replace all of mine. We switched ours out with the TFX Pros that you guys see here. This is their adjustable set with their adjustable height rear sight. You can change out the height by loosening or tightening the screw. Has that nice U-notch in the rear and a serrated rear edge. And then up front, we have the bright orange ring there around the green insert during the day. That fiber optic green is going to gather light and glow really bright. And then, of course, at night it has the tritium in there to let you use it in low light operations. So I do like the True Glows, but really there's a ton of different sight options out there for Glock pistols for sure. So that definitely is one advantage of them. However, on the Gen 5s, definitely make sure that whatever sights you go with are compatible with the Gen 5s, because I've heard of some manufacturers having a little bit of a problem having a loose fit up there in the front sight. So just double check that before you pick up a set of sights for your Gen 5s. Earlier in the video, I mentioned that we're going to get into the slide lock and slide release a little bit more in detail. So a couple things on that. Number one, you guys can see it has a ton of wear on it. This one has more wear than my Gen 3 that I carried for years. And I have no idea why that is. One thing, again, like we talked about, is that it sticks out more. It could be that, and that it's having more contact with holsters. Maybe. It could be an inferior finish. I'm not sure. But the fact that it sticks out a little bit more, for a lot of folks, myself included, has caused me some problems. So I shoot, very high up on the pistol, thumbs forward grip that a lot of modern shooters use, and a lot of very well-respected instructors teach. With this thing here, I kept hitting it all the time. I hit this thing, I don't even know how many times, like at least 10 times during the filming of this review. And this gun right now has about 900 rounds through it, and I at least hit it 10 times. And it caused of course, the slide to lock back when there were still rounds in the magazine, which is a very, very bad thing. So for me, for my hands, for the way I shoot, it's just unacceptable. Now, I'm sure some of you guys have it and you've never actually actuated it. So for you guys, it would be a non-issue. The other pistol that I use that I have that issue with is like standard SIG P226s. I have the exact same issue with them. Or on those, I will actually do the opposite as well with those, where I push down on it and the slide doesn't lock back. Either way, it's just my grip, how it works and how it interfaces with the gun. For some reason, I've never had the problem with my Gen 5 17, and I've shot that a bunch as well. But with this one, it happens. So again, it's just something to keep in mind. So like I mentioned, that for me would be a downside. For anybody else that has the same problem, that's a huge downside as well. The mag, little piece here, like we talked about earlier, definitely another con of it. Kind of not a con nor a pro is going to be the price point on it. So the map price on this one here, with just the standard sights that it comes with, is going to be, I believe, $559. And Glock is a stickler for map price and map price violation. Map is manufacturer's advertised pricing. So most places, that's what you're going to see it for, or maybe even a little bit less. Of course, like I said in the intro, Big Daddy Unlimited sent this one out. And for those that don't know what that is, Big Daddy Unlimited is sort of like a buyer's club, like Costco or BJ's or whatever else, depending on where you live, whatever program like that you guys have. And they basically require you to become a member. Then becoming a member, they allow you to see things at lower than advertised pricing. And this pistol here, I can tell you for sure, right now is in stock over at Big Daddy Unlimited for cheaper than the map price that I just quoted. I just can't say what it is because that would be a violation. But anyway, to join over there, it's 99 cents right now for a 30-day trial. There'll be a link in the video description if you guys are watching over on Facebook or Full30. And if you're watching on YouTube, just shoot me a message and I'll get that link to you to join. But it's 99 cents, 30-day trial currently, and you guys can see like I said, it is a good bit cheaper than the map pricing if you guys are looking for one. So pricing on that, neither pro nor con, because I don't think 550 is exorbitant in terms of pricing for a pistol like Glock, because it's a quality gun for sure. And of course, they have a very good reputation that they've earned over the years. But at the same time, when you have pistols like the CZP-10, C, the M&P Compact, that are, in my opinion, pretty much equal in just about every type of category, whether it be accuracy, reliability, etc. out there, and better in some, like ergonomics and trigger, than this pistol. It might be a little bit on the expensive side, in my opinion. And from everything I've seen sales-wise, Glock is losing market share, at least over the last 4 or 5 years, to some of these other companies that are making very good competitive options. So is the Glock 19 Gen 5 a bad pistol? No, it's not. It's probably a very good pistol. I had 0 malfunctions outside of my thumb hitting that slide lock like I mentioned earlier. Other than that, it ran everything well. The accuracy was very, very good out of that marksman barrel. I would definitely say it is an improvement over the standard barrel in terms of accuracy, so that's good. But it's priced a little bit on the high side. If I was a new shooter, would I get this gun? Probably not. I say that simply because there's better competitive options. However, I am a lifelong Glock shooter. The first pistol I ever shot was a Glock. The grip angle on the Glocks, which is awkward to some, is natural to me at this point. To me, everything about it feels normal, but I think for new shooters, it's going to feel awkward. Just like all the Glocks do, it still retains that hump on the back that a lot of people really don't like and say it doesn't fit their hands. So that could be a problem for some folks. But like I said, do I think it's a bad pistol? No, I don't. I think it's a good pistol. However, they kind of missed the boat on a couple of things. In my opinion, I would definitely make those things smaller. If anybody out there makes an aftermarket slimmer slide lock and slide release, somebody out there let me know. I'll definitely pick one up and give it a try. But that's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions about the pistol, anything else you guys see here on the channel, you can always post that down below in the comment section. If you guys either do or don't have that problem with it locking the slide back, let me know down below in the comment section as well. But thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for subscribing, and I hope to see all of you in the next video.